Mr. Tuhan.
Yes, Samina.
Our principal sir is also here, Dr. Shabir Hussain.
Okay, hi, Dr. Shabir.
Hi, Mr. Tuhan. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning to you too.
Very good luck for this seminar.
Thank you very much, and thank you for taking the initiative to organizing it for the kids.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
No problem, my honor. You are staying till the end of the session, Mr.
Yes,
Singh?
yes, I will be there. I will.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Samina.
Yes, Mr. Tuhan.
Sure. So we can start at sharp 10. It's 9:59.
Maybe at 10:05 because we'll have to accept the people in the meeting room.
Sure. And one of you will start, yeah?
Yeah. We'll do the introduction. Then when we say the guest speaker is going to speak, it will be handed over to you.
All right. Thanks, Samina.
No worries.
progress.
Sorry for the delay. We will start the session in 5 minutes. everyone present here today. I am Husseina Shabir and I warmly welcome you all to this business webinar organized by the Young Creatives Club of Burhani Serendib School. To start off today's proceedings, I would like to call upon Huzafa Ali Asgar for Tilawat-e Quran.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you, Huzafa. Amadullah Ilyas, the project chairperson, will now give the welcome address.
Good morning, guest speaker, Mr. Tuhan, Principal Sir Dr. Sheikh Shabir Hussain, Staff Advisor Ms. Samina Ammar, and all those present here today. I warmly welcome you all to this business webinar. Our main aim for this webinar is to organize an interactive session where our audience will get an insight on how the business world works. This will help you develop real-world skills and will also get an opportunity to hear Mr. Tuhan's experiences in the corporate world and receive career advice. Lastly, we hope it will inspire you to get creative and start your own business in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Amadullah. Now, I would like to invite our club president, Nafisa Fakhruddin, to say a few words.
The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Hello everyone, I'm Nafisa Fakhruddin, the president of the Young Creatives Club of Burhani Serendib School. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Tuhan for agreeing to do this webinar for us. The aim of this webinar is to give people an insight on how to start up a business and inspire individuals to become independent. And for those who already have a business idea in mind, this is a green light for you to go ahead and pursue it. As they say, a true entrepreneur is a doer, not a dreamer. I hope this webinar will motivate you all and will help you all make crucial life decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafisa. Our guest speaker for today is Mr. Tuhan Sapumanage. He is the founder and CEO at Transpirelk. He is a CIMA lecturer at the Wisdom Business Academy, researcher in artificial intelligence. He is a graduate from Coventry University, where he earned a bachelor's honor in computing with a first class. Upon completing his CIMA, Mr. Tuhan became one of the youngest in the world to complete a STEM bachelor's and CIMA, completing them at the age of 18 and 19. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Saina. Am I audible and visible? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. If you could take out the slides, then I could speak to you all casually for a second. Great. So once again, good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all the young faces. I mean, I'm 18, 19, I graduated, so I'm not that old either, but great to see all the young faces in a weekend morning and to get started with an entrepreneurial mindset in a weekend morning, because we live in a country where, not as a complaint, but live in a country where, usually starting a business is out of the question. So in an environment like that, it's great to see that you all youngsters have taken the initiative, and your teachers, your principals, everyone is looking at trying to make you entrepreneurial. Because while it's great to be having a job, which, I mean, not everyone can be entrepreneurs, then there won't be anyone to work for. But while it's great to get a job, I think being an entrepreneur brings you sort of freedom later in life. And it's nice to see that you all are looking at it right now. And like Nafisa said, the hard part is keeping the first step, because, I mean, when you keep the first step, you would automatically be motivated to go on, because you have already started and we don't want to lose the progress that we have had so far, right? So the hard part is taking the first step. And I'm not very sure if you have already started a business, which we would ask in the Zoom chat in a while. But like Nafisa very correctly said, what's important is to keep the first step. So usually in a seminar like this, I would have, had a conversation with you all and had a personal conversation. But owing to the current circumstances, I can't get to know you all individually, sadly. But let's get to know the audience as a whole. So I will ask a few questions so that I could, throughout the session, and you could, give yes or no answers and maybe a few answers in the Zoom, few elaborative answers in the Zoom chat. So can I quickly get a thumbs up if you are clear on the procedure, how we could go ahead with the session? Few thumbs ups maybe? Perfect. So the first question I want to ask you is now, how many of you all either have started a business or have a clear business idea about what you want to do after school? Maybe quick yeses in the Zoom chat so I could get a count as well. If you're comfortable in the private message, it's up to you. Both are okay. I know some of you all are in YouTube, so I'm assuming that the audience here would represent the audience there as well. A few yeses in the Zoom chat. Okay, so none. That's okay. I mean, you are still schooling, and that's completely all right. Okay, I got a 1 yes. Okay, 2 yeses. Okay, so that's completely all right. I mean, you all are still schooling, and when I was schooling, all I wanted to be was a software engineer. That's it. And when I was exposed to management concepts, I was like, why should I learn this? Because all I wanted to be was a software engineer. So there's nothing wrong if you have a business idea or not. The good news is that if you don't have one, you can learn a lot from today. So either way, you are in the winning side. So I will start with the presentation. I mean, it's not really a presentation per se, but to show you what we're discussing and have a clear mental image, I have prepared a few slides. Can I quickly get a few yeses that you could see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yes. Amazing. So today what we would be discussing would be about how you could be an entrepreneurial superhero. And I will tell you why I use that word and how you could stay as a one. Because why I wanted to say superhero is because, I mean, without any, even there are a lot of people that, I mean, if you take a walk outside and if you talk to the Mudalali uncle or the seller or the owner of the boutique shop outside, he might not have any of the qualities that we are going to discuss right now, but he started. Because of that, he's there. But what I'm trying to tell you is how we usually start a business, how we usually look at, how we usually vet a business, how you could analyze a business to be a superhero. So even if you don't become a superhero, you could be a good entrepreneur. So what we are trying to achieve right now is a bit higher than typically doing a business like a boutique shop. But of course, it's applicable to everything else. And why I want to say staying as a one is because there's a lot of people. For an example, if you know the business Theranos from Elizabeth Holmes, one of the fastest growing business in the US, but it collapsed because it's hard to stay as an entrepreneur than starting one, because you have a lot to manage in your life, you have a lot to manage in your business, and it's hard to be staying as a business owner than starting in the first place. So that's why I also wanted to look at how you could stay as a business owner. And today's goal would be like your president and the project chair very correctly covered. We will look at should you start a business or should you get a job or do both. Now, a quick disclaimer here. This doesn't mean that you should never start a business. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, when one of my lecturers asked you to start a business just 3 years ago, I was like, why start a business when I have a successful career? So it just means that at this part of the time, maybe you need to work somewhere and get experience, but it doesn't mean, never means that you should never start a business. So let's look at, do you have the qualities right now to start a business, or probably you should get some experience while doing a job first. Second, let's look at if you have a business idea. I know only a few of you do have a business idea, but just make a few, jot down a few pointers from this discussion as well about how you could evaluate your business idea when you have one. So you know that if it's actually feasible to be implemented in the real world or if it's not. And a few general career insights. So I don't have a specific slide for this, but while we are discussing, I would give you a few general career insights that I have learned the hard way, sadly, about having a successful career. And a few qualities that I would look into now. Right now, we are trying to recruit a few people, and few qualities that we would look into when we are working with someone and to when we are picking our teammates. All right, so that is the outline today, and hope we all are clear. Why not just give quick few thumbs up to see if you're clear with today's outline. Okay. Okay. Some of you are giving a physical thumbs up. Cool. So first question, should you start a business? Now, I mean, if you Google this question, there's a lot of literature out there that would say, you need to have this, you need to have that to start a business. But I would share the few things that I found. So when I want to start a business, also I talk to people, I did a Google search on mine, my own Google search, and I jot down a few things that I would have wanted to have it myself to start a business. So I will share a few of them. But if you Google, of course, you would find these, maybe some more, maybe some bit, but generally this is what we discuss when you want to start a business. First question, do you have the expertise to start a business? Now, this is about, do you have the skills? For an example, say you want to start a software business. Now, maybe if you are in some of the entrepreneurial competitions these days, everyone wants to get into software because that is the easiest way you could start a business. But in your core team, do you have enough people who know how to code, people who knows how to post it? And that is very important to have that core expertise within yourself if you want to start a business, because you can't outsource your core expertise. Second is, do you have experience? Now, these are two very different things. Expertise is, do you have the skill to do it? Experience is, have you done it enough to be good at it? Now, right after you graduate from college, while there are exceptions like Mark Zuckerberg and so on, while you usually graduate from college, doesn't mean that necessarily you have the experience to do it. Now, you might have done a few projects in school, of course, but for you to have experience, you really need to go there and do it. Now, before I start a business, about 3 years I worked at different places. Now usually they say work 5 years, but I was also working while studying. So about 3 years I worked in marketing, operations, finance, leading teams. So I believe I had enough experience to get started, and that experience is very important, or at least find a co-founder who has enough experience for you to get started, because then no one can mess with you. I mean, when someone is trying to mess with you, someone says, this thing cost you about 90,000, you know that this doesn't cost as much because you have the experience needed working in real life. Then the financial situation. Sadly, this is a bit out of your scope and our scope. Now, maybe our families are rich, maybe our families are not, maybe our families are moderate. And that is something that is beyond our control. But even if you have the expertise and experience, if you don't have, if you can't rely on a business to bring the cash flows needed for you to, run your family or your own education, sometimes still it's the best that you start a job, get experience while doing it, save enough so that you have a comfortable cushion. In case it fails, you still have a job while you're doing a business. Because I mean, we live in a generation with Instagram and all, it says that glorifies taking risks, but at the same time, while taking risk is cool and it sounds amazing, but you also need to be mindful about you and your family, right? So your financial situation plays a key role here. And the qualities. Now, qualities, I have a separate slide, so I will leave it here for now. And your network and contacts. Now, for an example, say you're in a very simple shop like boutique shop, you would have a lot of, there are so many people in the supply chain that you need to have maintain relationships with, so that they can't corner you, they can't strong arm you. So having the network and contact is very important. Now, if you go to a government university like Monitor, when you start a software business, there are enough people who has done software, and you have a strong network with your lecturers, with your different competitors. So one key way you could get contacts is to network among yourselves, because this club has a lot of people who are into entrepreneurship, but also go to competitions, talk to people, drop a LinkedIn request to existing entrepreneurs, and have a network strong enough so that when you start a business, you have, you're not starting from zero basically. So, and while working also, I mean, if you start a job, networking is a key resource that you get from there, because there would be people who are working in similar skills, and you can network with each other if you get a job for a short period. And you have a backup plan, because it's only like 1% of, I mean, the statistics vary depending on where you research, but Silicon Valley or even NASA, if you take, only 1% of the projects are usually successful. So you need to have a backup plan. And it doesn't mean that you can never be a businessman. I mean, there are people I know who, I mean, take Elon Musk, right? A public example. His 3 of his rockets failed and fourth worked. So you also need to have a backup plan, because when things go south phase, you need to have a backup, maybe a job, maybe a set of, savings set aside, So always have a backup plan when you're starting, and not having a backup plan is not taking a risk. It's just testing the waters by putting both your feet in the pond. So always have a backup plan no matter what you do in life. And the X factor. Now, without any of this, there are successful businessmen, right? If you take Mark Zuckerberg, he hasn't graduated, he didn't have any experience. I mean, he wasn't very rich, and I mean, he didn't have a network, and even most of the people hated him. So there are people, there's X factor that even without any of this, you could be a successful businessman. But statistically, that's a very few number of people, right? I mean, there's only one Elon Musk, there's only one Jeff Bezos, there's only one Dhammika Perera, and so on, right? So just, I mean, there are few X factor, there are few things that comes for you because who you are. And that is not something that I could explain to you, but depending on your track record, maybe you are a straight A student who's also very active in different clubs like this, whatever the projects that you get, you do well. So if you have that X factor, maybe you could be successful, but that's really something that you need to evaluate your own self and say, do I have the qualities which I will mention in the next slide within your X factor, so that, I mean, without having any of this also, you could be a successful businessman, but it is very rare. Okay, so up to clear, everything clear up to now? Few quick thumbs ups. Okay. So next slide. I mean, if I'm going too fast, just stop and let me know. In interest of time, I might speak a bit fast. So if it's the case, just let me know anytime on the Zoom chat. So about the qualities, I used what Forbes shared about what are the qualities that you might want to have before starting a business. And this is not a complete list, or this is not something that you should, it's not an exhaustive list. So it's not the end of the list. I mean, it doesn't capture everything, all the qualities that you need to have. But these are 7 qualities that they had shared. And not having these qualities doesn't mean you shouldn't start a business ever. But it could be probably a guideline, probably an indicator, not a definite answer, indicator that you might want to first get a job and get some experience before starting your own business. So first quality is that can you start and finish task independently. Now, when you start a job, whether you like it or not, you will have deadlines. So whether you like to start and finish things or not, you don't have an option. But when you're an entrepreneur, you are on your own timeline, and unless you have taken a lot of outside capital, no one is going to hold you to doing your business. So you are at your own independent, you are at your own discretion, you are on your independent will. And do you have a usually track record to start things and finish them as well? Now, I have a friend who has done almost every sport in the school, but he only does it for 2 weeks, right? So are you someone like that, or are you someone who finishes what you started? Because if you can't finish what you started and you want to try out different things, being an entrepreneur is probably something that you might want to start later, because there won't be anyone like in school or like in your family or like in your workplace. There won't be anyone who is going to hold you to your deadlines, right? I mean, you want to finish something Friday and you can't finish, you might put it to next week and next week, and it never gets done. So always, see if you're someone who can start and finish things on your own will. Secondly, can you set and achieve your short-term and long-term goals? Now, in workplace or even in school, you have a set of goals, right? You want to pass a term test, or in workplace, you want to get this promotion. So you have a set of goals. But as an entrepreneur, you will have to set your own goals. So I was someone who can set, I'm going to do this much of things for this time, or I was someone who wants someone else to tell you what you need to do. So that's an important indicator, once again, that you might want to get a few experience to, see how others set goals before you start your own business. And do you have the self-discipline and motivation? Now, once you set a goal, do you have the self-discipline to keep going? Like Nafisa very correctly said, it's important is to get the first step. But after keeping the first step, do you have the motivation to keep going? And that is very important, because while keeping the first step is important, staying there as an entrepreneur is harder than starting, right? So always be careful and see if you have the motivation to keep going. Next, can you manage money wisely? Now, what happens usually in the usual time when I was schooling is that parents give you money when you come to school, and you spend that on your lunch break in the canteen, and sometimes you get money from your friends as well. to spend after school. So are you someone like that, which most of us are? Or are you someone who can manage money wisely, save something, take it home, and maybe even save? And I know people who have both, and I know people who has done both and later has been successful. So it's not something that mean that if you were someone who took loans while you was in school, you shouldn't start a business. That's not what I'm saying. But at this part of the time, maybe you want to get a job so that you can earn a salary and you could get used to managing that salary, invest it somewhere, save and so on, and get some experience in managing money. Because honestly, right, I mean, no matter how rich you are, eventually you would get poor if you can't manage money. So that's a very important skill to have whatever you do in life. It's promotions, awards, even in school, right? I mean, you do a term test, you get good marks, you get an award. But being an entrepreneur, it takes about 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years probably if you're doing a tech startup sometimes to see the actual results of your work. So what is your definition of success? If you're going to thinking that you're going to be a millionaire in 1 year, that doesn't happen. I'm not talking about USD millions, just rupee millions, right? So what is your definition of success? Ideally, the definition of success for me is that doing the set of things that I have planned to do and seeing some progress. But can you set your definition of success? Because unlike work or school, you don't see immediate results when you start being an entrepreneur. And are you comfortable with depending on your own paycheck? Now, like I mentioned, right, financial situation matters because no matter how much you do your business, you can't starve, right? So when that happens, are you comfortable with depending on your own paycheck? Now, when you work somewhere, if you don't get fired, you get your monthly paycheck. Whereas if you're being an entrepreneur, if you don't work, you might not get paid. So are you comfortable being depending on your own self to get your paycheck? And lastly, do you know your self-worth? I think this goes both ways. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or if you are working somewhere, your employer will tell you how much you're getting paid at the end of the month. I mean, you can negotiate, but they will tell you how much you're worth. But as an entrepreneur, do you know how much you need to charge your clients? Now, one of your friends said, one second. One of your friends said that he wanted to be a graphic designer. Now, while it's a great thing to do you know your self-worth? Now, if you go to somewhere and start being a graphic designer, they will tell you how much you will get paid at the end of the month. And as an entrepreneur, do you know how much you can charge your client or whom you're working with? And that is also once again an indicator that you might want to work somewhere. So you know your self-worth, you know how the companies charge for that work, and then start your own business. Now, that being said, once again, what I want to tell you is that this set of guidelines, just because you get no for all these, doesn't mean that you should never start a business. It is an indicator that you might want to get some experience before starting a business, because no matter how many books that we read, sometimes that experience really matters. And when I work with some of the kids, being in Gen Z, which I'm also a part of, we want to get things done soon. We see, I mean, when you switch on Instagram, probably you might see Elon Musk sending a rocket, Facebook CEO Zuckerberg doing a speech, and Dhamak Pereira coming and doing a speech. So and we are seeing the success of them and we want to go there, which is a great motivation. But you also want to know that you can't hurry it. I mean, Elon Musk took about 12 years before actually making a successful launch, before actually making Tesla a successful company. Jeff Bezos worked about around 10 years again before Amazon becomes to what it is. So it takes time. Just make sure, just because if you're trying to keep working and then start a business because you want to take risk, it might not work in your best favor. It could work, once again, right? Statistics, I mean, if 100 people do that, maybe one person would be successful. But this is an indicator for you to do a self-analysis and see, are you ready to start your business right now? Once again, it doesn't mean that you should never start a business. You can always start one, but maybe get some experience before that. So next we'll move into evaluating the business ideas. Are you clear on this so far? And have you learned something? A quick thumbs up quickly if I move into the next section. Okay. Guys, I would love to get your questions right now, but in interest of time, let's continue. And at the end of the session, you might I will be able to answer your questions. So quick highlight again, why I wanted to share. I mean, usually when you come to a webinar like this, you would right away start with how to evaluate your business or how to start your business. But given that you all are still schooling, I also wanted you to think about the foundation that you're going to build your business on, because there's a lot of people who are, called fake entrepreneurs. Now, if you look at the next slide, you might see some of your friends, I'm not blaming anyone, some of your friends might be actually not doing anything, but all the cool taglines are there, right? Blockchain enthusiast, evangelist, visionary, and so on. So are you starting a business so that you could have these taglines in your LinkedIn? And I know a lot of people who do that. But or are you trying to do that because you actually genuinely want to be an entrepreneur? Because like you see in the one in your left, being an entrepreneur is a lot of work, and you might lose a lot of things in the short term to gain a lot of things later on in life. But are you doing it so that it's flash, it's cool, it's nice to say in your Instagram friends and post a story? Or are you genuinely someone who can be an entrepreneur? And depending on the comparison, you can see why you want to start a business. And while being a fake entrepreneur, because it's cool, might give you an edge right at the start. Right at the start. Think about, say, 2030, in about 9 to 10 years, and you all have been grown up as adults. And do you have enough money to provide for your family? Do you have enough money to provide for yourself? And if you are a fake entrepreneur just because you wanted to, look cool in this age, you probably might not have enough wealth to take care of your family, yourself, or even, go beyond and get your luxuries that you once wished as a kid. So don't try to be a fake entrepreneur just because you wanted to show off things on social media. And most likely, most of the people who are showing off on social media are people like that. I'm not telling that there aren't any genuine entrepreneurs. I mean, there's a lot of genuine entrepreneurs, but most of the people, if it's unlikely and if you are feeling like, how can this person do this, probably they are also fake. So just don't be distracted and try to be a genuine entrepreneur so that you could actually have a financial base in 10 years time, and you're ready to, in 10 years time, you'll be ahead of those fake entrepreneurs, because they can't do anything without actually having a business and trying to, they're just trying to show off. So keep that in mind, because don't start a business because it's flashy. Don't start a business because it's cool. Start a business because you are ready, because you have taken a genuine skill assessment of yourself, and because you genuinely believe in what you are trying to do. Because think about 2030, not right now. And that being said, now how can you evaluate a business? Now in this slide, I will introduce you to a few concepts. You might have seen some of these, but if you don't get any of this in this slide, don't worry. We will take an example for each one and seeing the next few slides. Just want to introduce you the concepts that we would look into in a moment's time. So if you don't get anything out of this slide, don't worry. First thing, now it is said that the average person gets about 10, probably $1 million ideas in their lifetimes, but not all of those are executed right, and not all of those are feasible. So let's look at now, when you get a business idea, does it solve something? Now, one of my favorite examples, probably because it makes me nostalgic and takes me to my grade 8. Now, before Elon Musk started talking about space science and rockets, we wanted to colonize Mars, right? Right after Curiosity was launched, we want to colonize Mars. And now we know that we don't have enough oxygen in Mars's atmosphere. Now, what we wanted to do was, now science students might know this, there's this thing called CONDIS, KMNO4. We want to take a lot of KMNO4 to Mars, burn that, and make oxygen. Now, it sounds a really cool idea, right? You're thinking about the outer space, you're thinking about Mars, but while it may solve something, it's not feasible. So let's look at all the business ideas and see if those business ideas can be, executed. Now, business idea, does it solve something? Now, the problem that we discussed, we wanted to solve, does solve something, but is it feasible? No. Let's look into them. Is it unique? Now, do you have any competitors? Is someone else doing that already? Or is, what you're trying to do, is it something that is unique, something that uses your skill set that it's hard for someone else to do? Can it compete with other people? Now, even though if it might be unique at the start, eventually competition would catch up. Now, when the first iPhone came, they were the first people to put a touch screen in the phone. But eventually, everyone else started doing that. So can you compete well? what are the other alternatives? Now, if you take, say, if you want to start a plane company, there are so many alternatives, right? Trains, buses, ferries, so on. So what are the other alternatives? Maybe not may not be direct competitors, but what are the alternatives that you might have? And does it give a positive outcome? Now, if you start a say drug business, a drug business might make you rich, but it's illegal and it doesn't leave a positive outcome for other people. So does your business start a positive outcome? Think about that, because while it's in one way people like ethical businesses, but other way, at the end of the day, it's not just about money, but who you are as a person. So think if your business idea also brings something positive to the humanity. Feasibility. Now, there are different types of feasibility. I'll just quickly mention them because we will discuss them in the next slide. Is it technically feasible? Does the numbers add up? Can you execute it as a business? And is it legal to do? And there are other also type of business like environment feasibility, political feasibility. But let's look at 4 of these feasibility types, because whatever the business you do, these 4 applies to you. And stakeholders. Now, if you don't know the word stakeholders, it means that pretty sure you already know, but in case someone watching from YouTube do not, stakeholders means people. The definition is people who have power or interest in your company, but it just basically means that people who are interested in your company, people who are like core team, your team that should be working, your suppliers, your customers, your competitors, and your partners. Now, if you take a company like Uber, it's very dependent on your driver partners. If they don't come to work, if they say no, you can't do anything with that company. And is it future proof? Now, you should not just think about 2021, you also need to think about the future. Is it scalable? Now, if you take a boutique shop, no matter how profitable you are at that location, it's very hard for you to go overseas or go to a different city even. So is it scalable? And can it sustain with tech? Now, before Netflix comes, there was this company called Blockbuster. They started sending out physical CDs, but Netflix started streaming, and the company went bankrupt. So can it sustain with the developments in new technology? And so these are a few things that I want you to think about when you are trying to evaluate your business idea. Just take a quick screenshot if you want right now, and we will look at each one of them in a moment's time. Idea. Now, say let's make a hypothetical company. YCC starts a bus booking application. Now, it's not something that I'm not something that I'm just taking this as an example, because it's a very commonly used example in new cities. You use buses, you all have used mobile phones, so that we could relate to the example. Now, the business idea, does it solve something? I'll ask you in the chat box, do you think a bus booking application solve people have? What do you think? Send me the PM just to see. No judging, no right answers, no correct, wrong answers. Guys, come on. Okay, one person says yes, one person says maybe. That's good. There aren't any yes or no questions. You could always say maybe, or even you don't know, because none of us know everything, so you could always say you don't know. Okay, we get a one I don't know as well. That's good. Okay, so like some of your friends said, maybe, right? We don't know, and you can't really know. We can't sit in our seats and see if it solve a problem. You need to ask your customers, you need to ask some people, maybe your parents, maybe your relatives, and do a market survey and see if you have an application like this, would they use it? Because if you look at once again, if you look at the statistics, about 50%, right? 50, half. If 2 people start a business, 1 person fails because they do a business idea because they think that it might work without asking their actual customers, would they like to use it? So always do a market survey before you start a business and see, would they like to use it? If you do even if you do a simple boutique shop, think, do you have enough customers who would be your clients? How they are going to take things right now? Do they make their own products, own food? So even if you do a boutique shop, it's very important that you do a market survey and understand and see if it solves something. Because if not, even no matter how much you love your business, if the customers don't like your business, it might not work out. And that is the truth, guys. I'm not trying to discourage you, but always do a survey. And the key is that even if you do a survey and people say that you do not like your business, that's good. Then you know that it doesn't work. Then you could pivot in a different direction and see how you could change your business idea to give them what they like. And in Sri Lanka, especially, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, there are so many problems. If you just watch Shark Tank and see, I mean, there are so many ideas you can just bring down, copy, and give to our people. So always do a research and see there's so much opportunity. And if people don't like it, always be willing to change your business idea so it would work out later. Now, is a bus booking application something unique? What do you think? Just send me a few answers. Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. I'm sleepy. Anything. Okay. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Yes, yes. So it's probably a no, right? I mean, even the government has their own application for some areas, and there are so many other competitors who do the same thing. There are some bus companies, even in Sri Lanka, who offers their own applications. It's probably not something that is unique right now. And if you go to a country like Singapore, that is the standard way to do it. But I mean, it's not something that is unique in the space, but just because it's not unique doesn't mean you can't do it. Now, I will tell you why next one. Now, if you pick a niche market, for example, say you partner with Sri Lankan Airlines and you get them tourists to sign up your bus application. So when you come to Sri Lanka, there is a ready bus for you to go where you want. And your parts selected, you have a bus seat booked. So it's a niche market, and I don't think they have done this specific market. So just because it's not unique doesn't mean you can't do it, but they need to find an effective way to compete with them. Now, Apple targets set of customers and Huawei targets set of customers, right? Similarly, you need to see if you can compete in the business, compete in the market, but that's not, I mean, if it's unique, it's good so that no one else does it. But even if it's not unique, maybe you can compete if you find a niche market. And what do you mean by a niche market? A specific market only you can cater in a way that others can't. And for example, the one we mentioned about Sri Lankan Airlines, a very exotic example, but that's what you mean by niche market. And it could be anything. I mean, maybe taking pregnant women to pregnant ladies to their hospital when they want to go for labor. Once again, a very specific market, very few, I mean, no one does that right now, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe only you can do it. Maybe you have all the facilities in your buses. Maybe you will have already, pre-planned, prepaid stuff, and you just need to click the button to get a bus seat. So just because it's not unique doesn't mean you can't compete, but you need to find a specific way how you could compete if it's not unique. And what are the alternatives? Now, does this have any alternatives? Say bus booking application, what are the alternatives that we have? There are many, right? I mean, if you don't want to take a bus, say you get a train, or maybe something like Uber, or maybe you just walk if it's a short distance, or maybe a private vehicle, or maybe you ask your neighbor to take you somewhere. So there are so many alternatives that if this doesn't work out for the clients, so you need to be very careful when there are so many alternatives, because even if you are the only provider, you might not work out if there are so many other alternatives that they could use in a more easier and a cheaper way. So does it give a positive outcome? Probably, right? I mean, it saves people's time. It's easy for you. I mean, you have a bus seat, you don't have to be frustrated. You don't have to stand up in the bus for a long period. Now, you could argue that it promotes, which we Gen Z is very passionate about. But that part aside, the core business itself does provide a good business idea. Evaluate your idea based on some of these headings and see what kind of thing it leads. So while you are doing it, while you have read different business case studies, I mean, just don't look at the headings, just like the headings. Take a company like maybe Airbnb, Uber, Google, and see how they fit into these headings, and see how your idea fits in, and you will get a good self-evaluation of your business idea when you do that. So feasibility. Now, the technical feasibility. Now, is a bus booking application something that you could technically do? Yeah, right. I mean, if you pay someone from anything from 20,000 from fresh graduates to 150,000, a large gap, to a proper company, you can get a bus booking application done. So it's technically feasible to do the application, but a question might arise: how you're going to tell the buses which seats are booked? How you're going to tell the customers that not to sit in these seats? So that part of the technical side, I mean, they won't buy a tab to use your application. So that part of the technical feasibility might be questionable, but the website, of course, you can do. Now, the financial feasibility. I think this is something that a lot of people overlook, and especially the young people in around your ages. And I'm not blaming any of you because it's not something that is taught in school. I mean, even if you do commerce, so I did local commerce O levels, and we don't really learn how you could do the financial analysis in a way you could evaluate your business. I mean, one of my favorite examples about financial analysis is, now I'm not very sure if he's accurate, but what he said was said by one of the most prominent financial analysts in the country. What he said was, now if you want to start a tobacco business, you will need to sell to half of the country to break even. That means to operate without making a loss. Now imagine doing a company for half of the country, right? So it's very hard for a new company to start business like that. Similarly, a financial, now if you ask how you're going to compete, I'm pretty sure if you were in a competition and you tell this and ask you how you're going to cater, you might say, we are going to do a lot of marketing, we are going to give at a lower price, we are going to go and tell people, you're going to literally knock people's door and tell what our product is. And while it sounds cool, numbers don't add up, right? You can't literally do that to half of the country. So, and there was one of the cool products that we saw in one of the competitions. They wanted to do a paint and they wanted a loan of 300 million. Even if you are an experienced businessman, it's very hard for a bank to give you 300 million rupees. So financial feasibility matters. And I will show you a quick example in the Excel about how you could do a basic financial analysis. This doesn't mean that, this doesn't mean that this is the end of it. But I will just quickly show you a quick financial analysis to show you how you could do a quick one. Can you see the screen? Can you see the Excel sheet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, a quick disclaimer again, this is not the complete version. I mean, if you take other expenses, there would be a lot of other headings. You might want to take the time value of money, you might want to take discount rate, so on. But without making you bored about it, I'll just take a very basic example and a very basic way how you could do a financial analysis to see if your business idea could work. So if you take the same business, a bit sick, I guess. So if you take the same business, now say you want to start selling tickets to Colombo to Kandy. And last time I checked, it was about 210 rupees. Could be different right now given the current inflation, but it was about 210 rupees. And you could start your business with about 80,000 rupees. And I mean, so 20 to 150K you need to pay, but a moderate fee would be 80,000. And say you pay about 10,000 for you to host the web application. Now, you need to know a lot about tech to host it at 10,000, but assuming that you do, and say you get about 50%, 5% for every fee charge. So every time someone books a ticket for 210 rupees, you get a 5% commission. And you say you want to get your investment recovered in about 3 years. Now, usually when an investor invests, they want about 10 times of what they invested in about 3 to 4 years. But let's just take the basic payback is about 3 years, just to show you the example. And say you get a revenue, right? You get 210 rupees for 20 working days a month for 12 months, and you get a 5% commission for one user. And if you get one user, the cost of sale would be 10,000 into 12 annually. And the loss would be this minus this. So revenue minus cost of sales, you would make a gross loss of 117,000. And say you have some other expenses. For example, maybe you get an intern, maybe you get someone to help you out. So 30,000 in 12 months. And you would make a net loss of this much. And you would, so if you want to recover your investment 8,000 in 3 years, you would want to make 26,000, but you're actually making a loss of 500,000 if you only had one user. So before I move into the next column, was this part of it clear? If I could get a quick few thumbs ups. Yeah. Okay, you guys are really smart. I explained to a few other people a much simpler version and they didn't get it. So probably you have a commerce background as well. I'm getting a quick sure enough, I got it. So apologies for mentioning the example. It's not a business. I mean, tobacco is not a business that you should do, and even I personally discourage it. But I just want to take you the example to tell you that those numbers should add up. Of course, don't get into any of those business, right? Those are bad business, and they would definitely kill people, and that's not how you want to live your life. So if you get 10 users, same figures everywhere else, except this is 10 people, and you would still make a total loss. If you get 100 users, still a loss. You want 191 users based on these numbers to make a profit, because if it's 190, you would still make a loss, right? But you would need 202 users to actually achieve your revenue target or other profit target to recoup your investment in 3 years. So this is a very basic analysis that I want you to do and show you. Now, if someone says, so the takeaway from here is that assuming these numbers are accurate. Now, I don't know, I think these numbers are accurate, but even if it's not, I'm not trying to tell you to start a bus application. I'm just trying to give you an example. So if assuming these are accurate, you might need 191 users to use your application daily for 12 months and for 3 years like that to actually start making a profit. And you would need 202 users using your application for every day for 12 months for 3 years to actually get anything out of your investment. So this is an example. It's a very, very basic analysis done without taking into account any of the cool things that you do in financial. And this is something that you really need to learn. And this might be the difference between you having a successful startup and it going sideways. So always do financial analysis and see. Now, if you Google, you can find so many different formats you could look into doing a financial analysis. See if your business idea is worthwhile. Take into your customers, how many customers you can get, how much you can charge them, what is the initial starting cost, how much you want to, what kind of a discount rate, that's the interest rate you want to apply. So many things that you need to put into, and this is not something that you could ignore, because this is very, very, very important. I can't stress this enough. And this might look a bit complicated because you're looking at the first time. I mean, apparently most of your friends got it, so I'm happy about that. But even if you don't get it, don't worry. Just take a quick screenshot if you want, and just know that this is like a very basic level that you want to do a financial analysis, and you really need to do a proper financial analysis before starting a business to see if it will work out for you. Quick thumbs up again if you got this. Just want to make sure that I haven't confused any of you. Okay, I get 1, 2. Okay, perfect. And operational. Now, what you mean by operational feasibility is how you could execute your business ideas. Because if you look at some of the businesses, it sounds very good on paper with financials, with technical feasibility, but it's very hard to execute it somewhere else. And it is about the execution, because idea without execution, you might have heard it, it's just, it doesn't worth anything, right? You might have a lot of ideas. If you can't execute it, it doesn't make sense. Like Nafisa said, right? It's hard is to start, keep the first step. And when you keep the first step is to execute your business, and it's operationally feasible for you to execute your business. And for this application, of course, it's a very small network of people that you need to overlook. So probably operationally feasible. And is it legal? I think it is. But there aren't any severe restrictions in this industry. But of course, even for you to collect garbage, there are some restrictions given by the law. This Gan Sabha only can take this thing, and this garbage belong to municipal council and so on. So just, whichever the business you start, just see if it's legally feasible as well. And I did not go into other areas because it's very dependent on each and every industry. But these 4 are basically minimum things that you might want to look in when you are going to start a business. Okay, so stakeholders. Now, whom do you think that you might want to have in your core team when you start a bus booking application? Maybe throw in a few answers. Do you want a CEO? Maybe you want a CTO? Maybe you want someone with experience in the industry? What do you think, guys? Just send me a few examples in the Zoom chat about the core people that you want in your Zoom chat. Sorry, in your business. Okay. So one person says we need a COO. Someone says we need someone with experience. Someone says we want someone with financial experience. We want someone with industry. I think you got it almost right. We would need a CEO to run the basic business. So you would be the COO as well to run the basic business, to get the clients, to talk to people, to make sure the partnerships are done. And you might need a dedicated CTO, that is someone who's overlooking the technology, because it's really hard for you to do both, to work with people and do the technology, even though you might have the skill. Depending on time constraints, you might not. So you might want someone, and ideally someone also with transportation experience, right? Because I mean, I haven't worked in the transportation industry. I'm pretty sure none of you also have. If you're going to start a business like that, you might need someone who has experience in the transportation industry. And you have a lot of suppliers, right? So you don't have a lot of suppliers, right? I mean, you have a web application and you might have a lot of partners, but for this business, you might not have a lot of suppliers. But depending on your business, now, if you look at something like a small boutique shop, you might have a lot of suppliers. So suppliers play a very key role, because if they say that you can't provide, or if they say you can't provide, they can't give you the items needed if you don't pay this much, you are in trouble. So be very careful about that as well. So customers, who would be your customers? People who want to book a bus ticket, bus seat without having to pay, wait in queues, not stand up in the bus. And there will be customers, and this thing is a bit straightforward, so I'll quickly move to. And competitors, there are many, but like we said earlier, what gives you edge, what makes you unique, how you could compete is important, and competitors are also stakeholders. But more importantly, your partners, like Uber. If your bus drivers say that, or bus companies say that you don't want your application, no matter how much your customers like it, no matter how good your product is, no matter how much you have invested, you can't use the applications. Your partners are very important, and in a world where the middleman is the key person in the today's economy, I mean, take Amazon, right? It's not the merchant who is most powerful, it's not the customer, but Amazon being the middleman. Same for Uber. So being in a business like that, in a economy like that, you need to see, you need to take care of your partners as well. And is your idea future proof? Is it scalable? For a bus business, it's probably difficult for you to go beyond city limits, because you don't have a lot of people using smartphones. And will it sustain with tech? Possibly, because what you are doing is disrupting the industry with coming with a bus booking application, and possibly it will sustain with tech. Now, I hope you got these few headings, because this is a bit tough, and these are few things that you might see when you go into second of your business studies. But I have seen some of you actually coming part, I mean, not with the faces, but with this uniform. I have seen some of you taking part in entrepreneurship competitions, and I have seen some of you win. So I just kept it at a bit of a higher level. So assuming that you might understand it, and which you did the hard part of financial. So I hope you understood it. If you didn't, just let me know in the questions, so that I could clarify it for you. And I got a thumbs up without even asking. That's the spirit, guys. So now we also talked about, so that is how you would, first part we discussed, are you ready to start a business right now, or would you want to get a job and get experience? Second part, we discussed how we could evaluate your business with different headings, different cool headings that you might learn in your second year of your business studies. But now you already have been exposed. Some of it might make sense, some of it might not make sense. But Google those terms that you took a screenshot of, and you would do your self-analysis to understand, this is what this means, and this is how we could apply it to my business, by taking real world businesses and applying them to those headings, and then apply your business and see how your business compare with existing successful businesses. So now let's talk about the importance of business minded. A short slide, but so based on different conversations that I have had with people, based on different things that I have learned as a student, I think it's very important that you be business minded no matter what you do in life. And one of the key reasons is that the individual benefits, right? As an entrepreneur, even if your business fails, you would be more mindful about your money. You would be more fearless. You would be your own boss, and you would be, like we discussed earlier, you can set targets and you could achieve them. And you also will be a very confident person. And being a leader, you would be also be able to lead people. You will also be a problem solver. I mean, in your family conversations, right, guys? Think how many people just came up and said, that auntie, that uncle, the economy is really bad. Let's migrate. I'm pretty sure you might have been in a conversation like that in the past few months. But how many of you actually problem solvers who could go and tell you that, you know what, this is the problem and this is how we solve it? And what we need right now is people who could solve problems. So if you are a business leader, if you start a business and even if it fails, you would be a good problem solver. And of course, you would get rich because, I mean, 40 years of working for someone is equivalent like 5 years of doing a business if you do it right. So of course, there's a very good chance that you would get rich if it works out. And I'm not telling that you should start a business because you want to get rich, but it is a benefit that you would get when you are business minded. Second thing is cash flows. Now, could I get a quick yeses in the Zoom chat about how many of you have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? One of my favorite books, changed my entire perspective about how I looked at money. How many of you may have read it in the Zoom chat? If you could send a few private messages. I have heard about it. Okay, heard. Okay. I like how you guys have saying that, I have heard about it without saying I haven't read it. Good, guys. Okay, we have one person who says, I have read it, but I don't agree with Robert. Guys, write your own book. Interesting. So some of you have read it, some of you haven't read it, some of you don't agree with him. That is a good thing. I mean, you shouldn't be a yes man, even if your boss says something. If you don't believe in it, you could always say why you don't agree with it. But of course, out of curiosity, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, something, just drop me a text after this why you do not agree with it. I'm really curious to know that. I mean, I'm genuinely curious to know why you don't agree with it. But personally, I found that book to be very good for you as a starter to know about money without having any finance background, because that book is kept to, I mean, my sister who was studying O levels, when she was studying the book, understood what it meant. So it's very kept it at a very easy to understand level. And if you're an employee or if you are self-employed, you would exchange your time for money, right? I mean, if you're an employee, you work 1 month, you get paid. You can't go somewhere and spend your 2 months and get paid, right? As an employee. Yeah. But if you are a business owner or if you are an investor, while you are sleeping, someone or your money would work for you. If you are a business owner, when you're sleeping, if you have a global company, say, right? When Elon Musk is sleeping, there are Teslas that's getting sold. When Dhammika Perera is sleeping, there would people who would go to Singer and buy things. So even if he's sleeping, he would make money. And similarly, other part would be investors, but it's because it's out of today's scope, I won't touch much about it. But again, being an investor is very important eventually, because when you have a lot of money and when you need to manage it, being an investor is very important, so that when you are sleeping, even your money works for you. You get, someone would use it for your business and they would make a profit and you would get something out of it. So being an investor is important as well. And another reason why you want to be a you might want to start a business is eventually, according to McKinsey and Company, one of the best global consulting companies, what they say is that about 1/3 of US workforce, so that's about 100 million people, 1/3 of that's 33% of the US workforce will not have jobs by 2030. And they also say that 85% of the jobs of 2030 have not yet been invented. I mean, take data scientists. It was not something that is there 10 years ago. So probably there would be new roles there in 2030. But a lot of work that we do right now would be replaced. So if you are a business owner, you could use technology, like Jack Ma says, Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba. You could use the technology to your advantage and you would not be replaced by a computer. And fourthly, and I think this is something that you really should look about, you would create opportunities for other people. You would create opportunities for the country. You would create opportunities for your friends. So being a business owner also is not just about yourself, but it's also about the wider environment, why the economy, why the country, and to the how you could benefit the society as well. And being business minded and doing it right is an amazing skill that you could have that would benefit both yourself and the economy and the larger world as well, right? I mean, take the current laptop I'm using or you're using. If they weren't business minded and did not invent it, we would not be able to have this conversation right now, right? We're getting a bit of thank you. So, I mean, if they did not invent what we are using right now, we would not have it. So, being business minded really helps you. And I know society sometimes look down on being a business person because of different ways that they have, they look at business people. But if you really look at it, if they haven't invented or if they haven't done what they have done, our life would be much more different. So, being business minded is important for society as well. And that being said, I also wanted to cover a few qualities. So this is the last slide. I know we are taking a bit more than expected, but few qualities that might help you, even if you get a career or if you start a business, or basically, anything in life. Because we are trying to recruit a few people right now, and it's very hard to find someone with these qualities in Sri Lanka because our culture is a bit different from what, how can I put it in a modest way, a bit different from the developed countries. So it's hard to find someone with these qualities, but if you have these qualities, you will not only be excellent in Sri Lanka, but also when you go somewhere else and do your business or your career, you would be greatly benefited. First thing. So firstly, I think you need to be very confident about what you're doing. Now, if you are an expert and if you're someone who is good at it, the more you learn, the more you realize that there's a lot that we don't know anything about, right? And it's called Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a psychological term, psychological theory. And what it says is that people who are actually good about something, they think that they are not good at it, in simple terms. And that is why you would probably have seen there are so many people on social media, what you call fake entrepreneurs. So people who want to show off, while there are people who actually work, probably even club. There may be people who are actually working behind the scenes doing a lot of things, while there are different people who get credit because people who are actually good at it aren't really confident about it, and it's a psychological issue. But just be confident about who you are, be confident to represent yourself right, and do it fearlessly, so that when you are, when you look at an audience of a lot of people and when you ask a question, be the first person to raise your hand and say, tell what you know, even in your school, even in a Zoom chat, right? Because the difference is when you take that opportunity, it would make a good impression on the person, even if your answer is wrong. And if it's wrong, there's nothing for you to lose, right? All you is that you would get some exposure. The person who's asking the question might remember you, and it might lead to other benefits for you to go do other things later in life. So whatever you do, always be confident about yourself, be confident about what you know. But at the same time, if you do a mistake, be very humble enough to accept your mistake, because we don't want someone who would come and say, I know everything, and something goes wrong, you try to put the blame on someone. That is not what I'm telling. Be confident about who you are. But if you do a mistake, always be humble and be willing to accept your mistakes and correct ourselves. And there's no shame in doing mistakes. You have tried, you failed something, it could happen anytime. But be willing to accept your mistakes, but confident about what you already know. And be resilient, patient, and optimistic. Why I mean this is, now when you start a business, for 2, 3, even 5 years, sometimes you might not see any tangible results. I mean, we see people, like I said earlier, rich people who have started businesses 20 years ago, 15 years ago, being rich now, but we want it soon. But it doesn't work that way. So when things fail, be resilient that it might take time, and understand it. Read business stories of other people and see how long it took for them. And be patient that it would take some time, and know that it would take some time. But at the same time, also be very optimistic that it would work out, because you can't, wake up every day and think, will it work out and work for 3 years. You need to be optimistic that what I am doing will bring me results in some time, and know that consciously, be confident about that, be optimistic. But at the same time, you also need to be patient and also be resilient when things fail, because things will fail. It's not something question of if things fail, things will always fail. And when things fail, just be resilient to keep going. And need to be a good team player. Now, individually, there's only so much that you could do yourself, right? I mean, we all have only 24 hours and we only can work 24 hours, no matter how skilled we are, no matter how smart we are. But if you work with your team while you are doing something else, you could get your team to do something else. So always be a good team player. And I know, once again, not very sure about the culture that you having, but generally in Sri Lanka, we are not team players. We want ourselves to be highlighted without doing anything, and that's how it goes. And I'm not blaming, once again, that's our culture. But be a team player, so that, I mean, not just Sri Lanka, just in South Asia, it's like that what I have seen in the conversation. But be a team player, be someone who is willing to empower others, be someone who can get things done with other people, someone who can inspire, someone who can step up for your team if it goes wrong, and someone who can lead without a title. Now that is very important, because when you have a title that you are a CEO, if you say something, they don't do something, you fire them, right? So when you are a CEO, you can get things done easily. But when you don't have a title, be very careful to get things done when you don't have a title. Now, maybe if you have project chairs and so on, but even if the project chair is, absent, maybe they can't make it. Even if you're just a new member, just step up and see if you are confident, step up and take that role and do something, so that you can be a leader without a title. And this is an amazing book from Robin Sharma, if I'm not mistaken, about leader without a title. Just read those books, because there's a lot of wisdom that you could get out of them and learn from the mistakes of others. Last two, be a problem solver and have the critical thinking ability. I think one thing that helped me do a lot of things at a very young age is because I love to solve problems. Now, when I see a problem, say something goes wrong in the Zoom chat, I will try to solve that, and that actually gives me an edge compared to other people who are just thinking like, this doesn't work out, I can't work right now. If you are an entrepreneur, especially, you can't just leave things if it doesn't work right. So you will need to be a problem solver. But even if you are trying to work somewhere and get some experience, if you are a problem solver, you would definitely stand out from the rest. So don't go to your boss and say, or your teacher, or even your class teacher, your president, and say, I can't do this because it doesn't work this way. Solutions are wrong and they won't do something else. But be a team player, learn that thing, and next time something goes wrong, use that learn. So always be a learner, but always be someone who can solve problems. Always try to be a problem solver and don't try to live with problems. And lastly, I could not stress this enough. No matter what you do what you love. And I'm not telling that do it because I'm not telling, the cliche platitude that do what you love. Why it's important is when you are starting a business or whatever you do, you would fail. If you don't fail, you're not growing. I mean, we grow through our failures. And I love I love learning from mistakes of mine. And similarly, you would also fail. But when you love what you do, you have a reason why you want to get started again, reason why you want to keep going when things don't go the way we expected. And also, work don't feel like work. I mean, sometimes when I'm doing a software application, I start in the morning and I just look at the clock and it's noon. I write 5 a.m. I start, and when I'm looking at the clock, it's like 3 p.m. So you won't feel like the time is going, and you would enjoy what you do when you love what you do. But a key takeaway here is that while you are doing what you love, also make sure that there's a need for what you do. Now, like we discussed in the business idea stage, it should solve something. So when you are doing what you love, also see how you could use what you love to do something that people need, so that they would come and pay you eventually to be your customers. Because no matter what you love, if you keep doing, and if no one's going to buy, well, you might have enjoyed your life, but you might not have achieved that target. So always make sure to do what you love, but make sure that it has a business need for the real world. So just to sum up, be confident and represent yourself right, but accept your mistakes if it doesn't work that way. Be resilient when things don't go right. Be patient. Know that it might take some time. I mean, you can't start a business today and be rich next month. But also be very optimistic that it will work out, because don't doubt yourself when you're doing something. Be a team worker. Be someone who can lead, even in your practice in your club when your president is not here. When I met 5 years ago, who had been one of the key people who had later helped me do a lot in life. So just be connected, just human thing, right? We like talking to people. So network with people, not just with me, with among yourself, who comes, and keep growing, because that's the entire goal, right? Keep growing. And we got a few questions. I would hope everything.
Thank you very much for that informative and inspiring speech, sir. I'm sure all present here today have truly understood the fundamentals of business and are ready to bring their ideas out to the world. Now, the floor is open for questions. You can either unmute and ask the questions or drop the question in the chat box.
Sure. So I think the person who do not agree with Robert sends me a question. I would be happy to answer this. Susan, you asking, I would read out the question for others as well. She's asking how you could do a market research when you have limited finance at the very early stage. Now, you necessarily do not need finance to do a market research. That is, you go and ask people, you do this, would you like that? Use the Google form and send it to your people. So with your networks, I mean, you have a club right now. Through the club, you might get a lot of people, like-minded people who might want to do that survey. So you could get those insights. And you might even want to have a tick box that says, can I contact you for more information? So if you want more information, you could ask them about it. Second would be the secondary research that you do. That is, and you could, using their research, you could get the insights you needed to start your business. For an example, say you wanted to start a simple boutique shop, and you go and ask your person, the owner of the current boutique shop, what are the products that people want but you can't give right now. You would get a list of things. So and then you can start getting those products. So doing a market research is a very inexpensive way that you could do it right now. And say if you want to start a tech application to maybe an education platform, and you have a lot of students in this platform, so you could send the survey and see what are the things that what are the topics that you want to see in the education platform. Do you think that you would use an education platform? How much time that you have spent in your education platform? Do you have access to internet, and so on? You could get this question through Google form. So doing a market research has been very inexpensive these days due to the birth of the internet. And that's exactly how it's done even in real world, unless you are a company like Unilever, where you would get dedicated people to go there and do the entire data analysis. For you to start a simple business, you can do a market research without any capital at all. Hope that answered your question, Hussein. If I could get a quick yes, so a follow up, that would be great. Perfect. You're welcome. Anything else I could clarify for you guys? Stop the share so I could see you all clearly. Okay, so anything else that I could clarify for you? Okay, so have you understood everything we mentioned? You got nothing. Okay, we're getting another question. In today's world, during this pandemic, many businesses have failed. So how do you grow businesses again? Okay, Zainab, a very good question. The truth is, it's not that many businesses have failed. And I'm taking this insight from actually one of my colleagues at CIMA, and I agree with him. So businesses who have failed are the businesses who could not adapt. Now, if you take companies like Zoom or internet service providers like Dialog to companies who do home things, they have actually thrived. Their businesses have improved. Pfizer and so on. Their business have improved. The businesses who have failed are the businesses who did not plan for an sorry, a business who has not planned for an unforeseen event before the pandemic starts. Now, if you see this headline, I think it was on Daily FT. Businesses pandemic did not make businesses fail. It exposed a system that is already failed, right? If you plan for your business, if you look at a company like MAS in Sri Lanka, they were already planning to have work from home. They already planning to introduce remote working. So they were already prepared for a thing like that. So the businesses who have failed are not the ones that failed due to a pandemic. And it's the businesses that have not been ready to implement their practices in when you see unforeseen circumstances. So it's not just the pandemic. I mean, anything, wars, even rain could disrupt your business if you don't plan your business, if you don't plan your business strategy. So pandemic did not fail your businesses, but because you haven't been prepared for unforeseen things, your business failed. And that is the first thing I want to tell you. And second thing is how you grow would be. Now, due to the pandemic, there are so many new opportunities that are open, right? Damika Perez is doing his own educational platform to there are so many other new businesses that emerged due to the pandemic. So try to look for these areas so that you would have a, I mean, and in a way that it would sustain. I mean, work from here is yet to stay, here to stay, and so on. So try to find a business area that might sustain even after the pandemic that has been booming right now. Even if not even traditional businesses, if you could find new ways to do the same thing while being prepared for unforeseen circumstances, your business would not fail and would continue to stay even if you get a pandemic or whatever happens, so that you are prepared for unforeseen circumstances. Hope it was clear, Zainab. If I could get a follow-up over time, thumbs up, that would be great. So I know I have answered your question. Okay, you're welcome. Anything else, guys, young entrepreneurs? By the way, feel free to unmute your mic and ask. I'm all cool with that, and probably should do that so you can be more confident in asking in front of an audience. Anything else, guys, you want to ask? By the way, there is no any stupid questions when you come to whatever you do. What stupid is not asking a question when you have a question. So even if you think that, your question could be stupid, no one judges, just, come and ask the question, because we're all here to learn. I learn from you. I mean, I would definitely learn from Hussein why he did not like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. So, and I really mean that, right? Do drop me a text. So maybe we are here to learn from each other, and just ask any question that you might want to ask. I'm all cool.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
Hi, happy morning to you.
Good
Can
morning.
you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. I can't see you though.
Yes, yeah. A very, very informative session, and I'm totally impressed. I just want to, for you to talk about a little bit about the niche in the business. Okay. I mean, is having a niche very important? Okay. Because sometimes when you cater to a very broad audience, you tend to lose. So is having a niche important?
Sure. So that is a very important.
I hope that's a question that you would like to take up or whatever. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, all good. I sadly could not see the name of the person who asked the question. But that's a very important question. I think we all talk about niche, but we don't say, how important it is. Now, there are two ways, right? You could either sell a lot of things for a small audience. You could sell a lot of things for a large audience and make profit out of it at a lower cost. Or you could target a niche market and sell a few of things at a higher price. Now, if you take a company like Unilever, when they sell sunlight, you sell it to everyone at a lower price and still they would make a profit out of it. If you take a company like Rolex, or if you take a company like Ferrari, they would have a very specific market. They sell a few, but they charge a higher price. But of course, if you could charge a higher price for a large audience like what Apple does, you could make super profits. And that's why they are a $1 trillion company. So it's really up to you as to what kind of a product that you do. And some products you can't sell to a mass market. Now, if you take a company like Rolex, so I'm taking global examples so that you all know them. If you can't take a company like Rolex, you can't sell it to everyone. I mean, if you try to sell it to everyone, it would lose its value. Now, if you take, I think the brand is Zara, the fashion brand, ZARA. So what they do is they destroy their products when they are obsolete, because rather than selling it to someone else at a lower price, they would just focus on the niche market and make a profit out of it. Whereas if you take a company like Apple, they have been able to very successfully sell with about 100% margins, that is 100% profit. So you make something for 60,000, you sell for 120K, and still being able to successfully do it. So it really depends on your product, and there's no one right way or wrong way to do it. There are companies who have been successful in both ways. You just need to see what fits your product, what fits your business, what fits your market, and try to focus on the area that you can profitably cater. And you might not get it the first time. You might want to test it out in different markets and see, are you going to go mass market or are you going to do a niche? So you could be a bit of a learning curve as well. But eventually it really depends on the product or the service that you are trying to make, and there's no any universally what's right or wrong about should you target a niche or not. Hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. It was very informative. Thank you. By the way, I'm the staff advisor of the Interact Club, Rashida.
Okay, Rashida, got it. Explains why that question was a bit of a matured question as well.
Okay, thank you.
There are some time in business can be a negative cash flow. So during that time, what should business do? Okay. So one of your friend is asking, what can businesses do when they face a negative cash flow, which I'm assuming is a negative profit, as in a loss. Now, if you take a boutique shop side of a thing, where minimum cost, I mean, when you take a small shop, you would actually get the products, sell them first, and then, pay to the people who brought your products. So in a small businesses, when you look at a small scale business, it's very likely that you would not face a cash flow loss for a very long time. But if you look at tech products, there are companies who haven't still made a profit. Now, if you look at either Netflix or by Netflix, I can't really recall. Netflix or Uber, they aren't still profitable, right? I think it's Uber. They aren't still profitable. And if you take Tesla, they had not been profitable for the last 10 years up until very recently. So if you look at a tech business, it's very likely that you would face a negative cash flow. And that is not something that you should worry about, because there are three ways that you could get cash for your business. First is your operating income. You make product, you sell them, you make a profit. Second would be your financing income, where you would, you would get loans, you would get debt, and you would, so still you have businesses, but of course you will have to pay that debt back. Third would be your investment. So when Elon Musk failed his third rocket and did the fourth successful launch, NASA came and invested in one of their projects. So there are different ways that you could get money needed to keep going. And just because if it's not profitable in the first few years is not something that you should worry about. And it's something that you are to expect, especially if you are doing a tech company, because there would be a lot of startup costs in the beginning if you're doing a technology related product. Hope that answered your question about negative cash flows. And that is exactly why people do different investing rounds. So their product cannot return profit yet, but they need cash to keep going. So they get investors for different valuations. If you might see Melanie Patrick, her name, I think, Canva CEO, she became the youngest and the richest person with a Sri Lankan descent to become the richest person with a $7 billion net worth, because they wanted to get cash out of they want to get more cash. They were not profitable. And they got outside investors. So even though their product may not be profitable yet, they still have outside cash to keep going. And when you do that, of course, how much you own your business might go down. I think she owns about 12.5%, and that is normal. But of course, negative cash flow itself is not something that you should worry about, depending on the industry that you are in. Hope that answered your question, Sakina. Okay. What if a business is only successful because of a particular trend question, and then the trend is no longer around? What should a company do? Okay, a very good question again. Now, if you take the company House Party done by Live and Go, I think the company name, the House Party application was very popular. Some of you might even have used it when the pandemic came last year, but the company went out of business and will be closed down permanently this October. So this is a real issue, and the best way to do that would be to plan before it happens. When your product is thriving, when your product is at a very successful stage, at that time you should plan what you could do when it's no longer a product. Now, when say for example, when BlackBerry came, when iPhone came, BlackBerry was the most famous product everyone used. You might remember everyone wanted the BlackBerry, but because they were not innovating, they clearly lost, and they are no longer even selling smartphones. So before a competitor start doing it, before the trend finishes, you need to look at how you could innovate or how you could pivot into different directions before it happens, so that when the trend is no longer around, you are still in business. Make sense? So you need to plan before. It's not something that you could wake up one day and see no one wants to buy your thing and try to pivot. You need to plan it way before. And that's exactly why I said staying in business is harder than starting a business, because while you start a business, when there's a trend, when the things don't go right, it's very hard for you to stay in business. And you need to be resilient, like I said, in the skills you need to stay when it happens. Hope I answered your question, Zaina.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. No worries. So guys, Seeing no more questions, shall we wind up? And if you have any questions, just let me know in one of the social media, or get your president to drop me an email if you're not on any social media, so I could clarify for you. And I think you might get the recording also, so you could, rewind and see anything if you had missed anything before. Yeah, Hussaina?
The questionnaire session has now come to a close. Due to time constraints, we will now stop taking questions. I would now like to call our staff advisor, Ms. Samina Ammar, to say a few words.
Thank you, Hussaina. I would like to thank Mr. Tuhan for joining us today and enlightening our young entrepreneurs and our dear audiences with valuable piece of advice. And I think all of them have got very great idea on how to start a business. So let's be business minded, and as you mentioned, keep growing. So let's keep growing and create some good businesses, as we know we can do it. So we appreciate this mysterious area clarified, Mr. Tuhan. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me and thanks for taking part.
Thank you, Miss. Now I would like to call upon Mohammed Yusuf, the secretary of this project, to give away the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sena. Honorable guest, Mr. Tuhan, respected Principal Sir Dr. Sheikh Shabir Hussain, teacher in charge, Ms. Sabina, and my dear friends. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. We, the committee of Be Business Minded Bobina and the board of the Young Creatives Club, would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Tuhan, who took time from his busy schedule to inspire and motivate our audience present here today. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Samina, our staff advisor, for her constant support, and Ms. Fatima for helping us organize this event. Last but not the least, a thank you goes out to all our participants for the day. This event would not have been a success without your presence. Thank you and stay safe.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I will leave Hussaina there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks a lot
Thank
for
you,
joining.
Mr. Tuhan, for joining us.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, sir.
joining us. It was very informative.
No problem. Take care, guys. Stay safe.
Recording stopped.